Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today we have with us Dr. Tim York. He's the moderator of the National Association of Free Will Baptists, and he has been the moderator for a day or two. So he's had a lot of experience with Free Will Baptist churches. He's a longtime pastorate in Kentucky, and he's now pastoring the Grove Church outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in Smyrna. So many of our listeners are aware that Dr. York has been working with churches through the pastor placement program. But Dr. York, that's really gone into a whole nother element, hasn't it? So now
it's a moving target.
It is. And so now we've started something called the Shepherding Initiative. And our listeners may say, well, I like that title, and I hope they do. And maybe they've seen the logo and they like that too. But what is the Shepherding Initiative?
The Shepherding Initiative is an opportunity for churches who don't have a pastor, who are in that search, to at least have some shepherding opportunities through coaching, through other resources, so they're not on the island alone, or they're not just having an interim come in and preach and they're just having church, but they can continue the actual function and ministry of the church.
So often we'll do this once we get a pastor, or sometimes people wait quite a while for a pastor, don't they?
We've had churches wait 15 years for a pastor.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how many churches have survived, even made it. But what this gives the opportunity to do is to deal with church health issues, continue the progress. It shows newcomers the church is not stalemate, but it can move forward. A lot of our churches are struggling. They're small, and they've kind of run out of ideas. We've done that before kind of thing. So this gives us an opportunity to help them get beyond that point.
And a lot of pastors, because there aren't as many pastors as there were at one time, this makes you far more appealing to a pastor, doesn't it?
It does. It gives you an opportunity to say we have health, we have a vision, we have a future. We're not just continuing to deteriorate. You know, a body will deteriorate if it's not exercised, taken care of, and that's exactly what happens in the body of Christ. The church will begin to deteriorate if it doesn't have some kind of process of future.
Very good. So the Shepherding Initiative is a great idea. It's something that's available for churches that do not have pastors. Give our folks a bit of an idea about the resources that are provided through.
The resource to be provided is, first of all, there's coaching. Every Tuesday, if that works on the schedule of the person, someone is appointed in the body, in the church. That is the shepherd who has shepherding abilities, who can check on people, who can lead people, who can, just be that person to kind of look to for shepherding gifts. And once they identify that person, then we can come along beside them through a Zoom call every Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening and coach them through. Have you checked on Sister Betty this week? How many did you have Sunday? What's taking place? Have you thought about this? Have you tried this? What's the other opportunities? And so it gives that person who's the shepherd a voice outside the flock to hear some, what's really could be helpful to them, and gives them fresh ideas. Second of all, it provides a resource for like Wednesday night, people need something, we can provide that. Randall House is providing resources for them. There's a lot of good stuff happens. And let's just say they're at the point they don't have anybody to preach on Sunday. Or they're bringing in somebody every Sunday. It's a different sermon, we can provide them videos of sermons that are designed for churches without pastors looking for the future to kind of help them get through that. And they can show a video. They do their own music, have their own business meetings. Nobody's trying to do anything other than help them get back on their feet.
So really there's a lot of resources. A lot of them are video-based. And so you mentioned if they want it, there's a Sunday morning sermon they can have. There's a midweek Bible study they could have. You also mentioned that all of these resources are geared toward churches in their situation. So I think so far it's been like the Bless Every Home is for midweek and things that help them to be active in outreach and so forth. And the coaching is real critical as well, isn't it?
It's very much. And what happens is that person who's doing the shepherding has to hear from somebody outside, or just to keep them fresh and keep them vibrant, because they've never done this before. And so now they're kind of stepping in the role of, I wouldn't say the role of the pastor, but they're shepherding. They're guiding people. And so it gives them fresh ideas, opportunities. When they're frustrated, they can bounce something off. So it's very confidential. Not everybody's going to go out and talk. And so it kind of gives them that opportunity. And I think one of the things some churches would say to us is, well, if we don't have a pastor, we just been watching, a video of somebody preaching, and preaching's good, but the problem is they need something for their situation.
Yeah. Because
the mega church, well-designed sermon doesn't appeal to what they need at that moment. It's kind of like, I tell years ago that I joined the Gold Gym. About the third trip in, I realized I don't fit here. These people are serious about exercise.
Yes.
And so I think there's some of that actually goes on in our churches, and then discouragement sets in.
Yeah. So it's based on their context, their particular situation, and their particular needs. Right. We hear a lot about people falling through the cracks, things don't get attended to, and that's the benefit of the weekly coaching,
right?
To kind of follow up and to help and to give them assistance when there are problems that continue to happen in a church, to help that shepherd, to help them along.
Even in times of conflict, we can help them. We can coach them not to blow it out of proportion, but be able to deal with it and move forward.
So a church is saying, I think I'd be interested in that. What do they do to take the next step?
Well, it'd be really good to call me or to email me, and I'd be glad to help them in any way possible and just talk them through it. Even if I need to come to where they are and show them how it would work, we'd be glad to do that as well.
And so if you're a listener and you're like, well, we're all the way out in Kansas or we're in California, we've sent you all the way out west, sent you to Arizona and so forth. So that's something that we're willing to do. It's got boots on the ground, talking face to face, and sometimes it requires that to help them to be able to get to a position where they could use that. So you're listening and you're saying, hey, this is something we're interested in. Email us at questions@nafwb.org and then put in the subject line the Shepherding Initiative. And then we'll get with Brother Tim. We'll follow up. We'll make you aware of the resources that are available for you. And think about it. There's resources for Sunday morning, for Sunday school, for life groups, for midweek studies and so forth, all kinds of opportunities as well as coaching. I will say, Brother Tim, we've had some churches that, because of their situation, maybe a pastor's bivocational and time is tough, that we are also making these resources available to them as well.
And the good thing is you can pick and choose what you need. It's not, you got to take it all. It's this program you got to sign up for. It's just resources to help you.
And they're there. Might as well have as many folks as possible use. And so you could do the same thing. You could send us the email at questions@nafwb.org and say, hey, I'm interested in some of those Shepherding Initiative resources, and we'll do what we can to help you along and make that happen. It does almost go hand in hand also, though, with the pastor search process, doesn't it?
For sure. We're looking at many different things. We're talking about church. Some churches could merge. That seems to be very difficult. Some of us are pastoring two churches now in order to make that happen. And so I encourage churches, be flexible about that, because we really do have a crisis among us, and not just us. Every denomination in the country is battling it. But this goes hand in hand to help fill the gap and continue to pray the Lord of the harvest to send forth laborers. It's not that we want to do this. We'd much rather these churches be thriving with pastors, but we don't have that right now.
Right. So we're not going to sit still. We'll help you with the whole placement process if that's something that you so desire, but we'll also help you immediately to keep moving, to keep the church active, which helps you to hold on to people there in your church, get new folks, and deal with problems and be ready. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come by and talk about this, Dr. York. We greatly appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to serve our people. Thankful for our churches, and I appreciate your vision to helping churches that are struggling.
And we need to give a shout out to Andy Addis out in Kansas. So he's a Southern Baptist pastor that really Mark Clifton kind of got us tied into him a little bit. And so basically he shared all the resources that he's doing out there in Kansas and using, and they've seen great success, and we've adapted it. You've really adapted it to our situation. And so shout out to Andy, shout out to Mark too for helping us find him as well. And we just encourage you to take advantage of this and pass it on to someone if you can. Well, thank you for taking the time for joining us today. We want to encourage you to take this podcast, share it with someone that would benefit. Remember, every little thing we do, it really does matter. It really does make a difference in the kingdom. And remember, when we work together, we accomplish far more. We are better together. Thank you.